Shameless Picture Show is part of the Cinepunks Network. If you like the Shameless Picture Show and you want to hear other great shows like it, make sure you check out the Cinepunks Network. You can find them at www.cinepunks.com. That's CINEPUNX. There's other great shows such as Cinepunks. There's The Carnage Report, Cinema Smorgasbord, Fat Girl Hacks, Loud, Fast, Philly, Tomb of Ideas, and Twitch of the Death Nerve, and so much more. If you like punk rock and you like movies, make sure to go to www.cinepunks.com. And let's not forget the sponsors for the Cinepunks Network. We have the Lehigh Valley Apparel Creations. They are the premier screen printer of the Lehigh Valley with service to the whole country, professional and personable in a way that only a DIY business can be. They also have ridiculously low prices for whatever your screen printing needs may be. You can visit them online at xlvacx.com. That's xlvacx.com. Lehigh Valley Apparel Creations. We also have the Essex Coffee Roasters. All their coffee is roasted to order. They have high quality beans, bunch of apparel, and tea available. They are bringing high quality coffee to the masses without the pretentiousness. Use the code CINEPUNKS for 10% off your first order. You can visit them at www.essexcoffeeroasters.com. That's ESSEX, coffeeroasters.com. Once again, use the code CINEPUNKS for 10% off your first order. One of our newer sponsors here at the Shameless Picture Show is Kino Lorber. With a library of over 4,000 titles, Kino Lorber Incorporated has been a leader in independent art house distribution for 35 years, including 30 films per year theatrically under its Kino Lorber, Kino Repertory, and Alive Mind Cinema banners, garnering 7 Academy Award nominations in 9 years. In addition, the company brings over 350 titles yearly to the home entertainment educational markets through physical and digital media releases. With the expanding family of distributed labels, Kino Lorber handles releases and ancillary media for Zeitgeist Films, Milestone Films, Cohen Media Group, Greenwich Entertainment, Artsploitation, Palisades Tartan, Raro Video, and others, placing physical titles through all wholesale, retail, and direct-to-consumer channels, as well as direct digital distribution through over 40 OTT services, including all major TVOD and SVOD platforms. If you'd like more information on Kino Lorber and all the great titles they're putting out, be sure to check them out at www.kinolorber.com. That's KINOLORBER.com. KinoLorber.com. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Shameless Picture Show. I am Michael Viers, and if you've read the description, you know that this episode we will be talking about Spice World. I am joined by my good friend Josephine. Unfortunately, Nick could not make it, but we do the best we can without him. As I said, I wanted to record this little intro. I'm really fucking excited for this episode. Ever since me and Josephine recorded this, I've been thinking about this episode. I've been excited to get this released. I am excited for all of it. However, I did want to at least mention, sometimes, technical snafus happen. You can't always prepare for everything. You plan for the worst. But we had a recording malfunction on Josephine's end while recording. So the audio is a little boxy. It kind of sounds like I'm talking to her through a telephone. It's kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of feel like an old radio DJ, and I've got my co-host coming in via telephone or something like that. She sounds like she's talking to me through a telephone. It definitely needed some work. Originally there was also a really loud hiss in the background. The levels weren't really that high. I did what I could to try to fix it. I EQ'd the hell out of it. I'm not the best with it, so I actually passed it off to my very good friend Bob Schaub. If I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. I've actually not really ever had to say it very often, Bob. So I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name, but I've always thought it was Bob Schaub. Anyways, I passed it off to my good friend Bob. He's the drummer for The Directionals, who does our theme music. And I said, Bob, I've done whatever I could to this. Fuck, please, can you save me? And he's like, yeah, I actually just got my audio set up going. Let me take a look. And he listened to it. And he said it's not perfect, and he can't make it perfect. I wasn't expecting perfect. I just wanted listenable. And he said, but I think I did clean it up quite a bit. I got rid of the loud hiss. I got rid of some of the room noise. And he said, if you're okay for sounding boxy, I think it's workable. And I was listening to the episode because I cut it, and I think it sounds quite good, all things considered. But I did want to at least mention so that way you're not adjusting your own, EQ settings or whatever and being like, what the fuck's going on with this? So I apologize. We did whatever we could. Josephine's going to look into her microphone and figure out what went wrong there, but, it is what it is. Ultimately, though, I hope the content of this episode is what sticks with you. So I wanted to give a big shout out to my buddy Bob, who helped clean out this episode. Who helped clean up this episode. I want to give a huge shout out to my good friend Josephine, who this will now be her 4th episode. She's been on Dune. She was on a half episode of Dune. She was also on Audition. She was on The Witch That Came from the Sea. So this is her 3rd full episode. And this was her request. We had a fantastic conversation. Big shout out to the band Crossed Keys for lending us that awesome fucking music during our little ad. That song is called Who We Never Were. You can buy that single currently off of Bandcamp. The band is called Crossed Keys. It will be on their full-length album, Believes in You. That song was lent to me by Crossed Keys, specifically, I don't know if he goes by Joey Angel or goes by Joshua Alvarez, but I met him as Joshua Alvarez. He's the co-host of Cinepunks, our fucking network, and I told him, I love this song, I want to use it, so that way people don't have to just listen to me talk, and he said, fuck yeah. So please, if you like the song is called Who We Never Were. You can get that on Bandcamp currently. It's off of their album Believes in You. You can get the 10-song LP is out May 5th, Friday, May 5th. You can actually order it on vinyl right now. So go show them some love. They're a really cool band. Josh, thanks for your help. Bob, thanks for your help. Josephine, thanks for your help. Let's get to the fucking episode.
I worked today, but I also took a long nap. And I'm tired. I was out till like midnight at Alvin Ailey, which is a dance group that was created for primarily Black dancers, who, of course, were not being hired by the Matrix group back in the day. And it's continued on. And that was like the best dance performance I have seen in years. And I like go to the ballet. But I was out till midnight. Awesome. And I woke up at like 4 a.m. So I'm like not doing so hot today. Just going crazy at the fucking dance performance.
There's a concert coming up that I really want to go to. That is it's like $15 because it's at the X-Ray Arcade in Milwaukee.
Oh yeah.
And it's their like.
Wait, they charge $15 for that?
I think so.
I think I've been there. It's fine. I remember when punk shows were $5 in a bar.
This is like this really cool up and coming goth band from Georgia that's coming to town that I really want to see. Video Vision. They're coming to town, but they're coming on a fucking Monday. I'm like, God damn, do I really want to do that to myself? Like, yes, but do I want to do that to myself?
No, that's
especially because
they're
the third on a bill, so they're not going on at least until 10.
Okay, so there's a bar weekdays in Chicago called Cole's that I go to for shows sometimes, and it'll be like they'll be like, all right, doors open at like 9, fucking get here. And I've gotten there at 9 and nobody goes on until 11:30. Like the opener doesn't. And I'm sitting there on like a Tuesday night, like having these like 20 somethings try it with me. I'm very old. Last time I was there was like a 23-year-old trying to hit on me. I finally was like, dude, I'm 33. Like I'm over 10 years older than you. Please leave me alone. Yeah, I mean, I love that place, but start your shows at like 5:30 so I can just go there from work and then be in bed by 10. Like,
is that so much to ask? Like, I want to be out of there by 11.
Oh my gosh, seriously? Yeah. Well, one of my friends was complaining about a 10 p.m. The opener went on, or the headliner went on at 10 p.m. at Sleeping Village in Chicago, and I was like, that is so early for Chicago. Like, thank God. Like, I'm gonna go to more shows there because otherwise they're on at like 1 a.m. and I'm tired. I'm sleepy.
Especially a show that has three bands on it. Like, by the time the third band comes on, I'm like, I want to go home. And plus, I don't drink, so like bar culture can be
Totally.
weird. Thankfully, more bars are embracing the mocktail, so that's pretty cool.
Do you feel like
Um,
it's so? I know you don't drink. I assume like you're fine being around alcohol, but you like. I know that
yeah.
like a bunch of drunk people is like not super fun if you're not drunk. Like I've been.
No.
So like, do you feel like the culture in bars is shifting towards being more chill? Like, do you feel
Um,
more comfortable?
yes, the reason I will say that is because I feel like so many now, like you know, in Wisconsin, there's a bar for everything. There's a bar in every corner. The old school, corner bar that our parents probably hung out
Mhm.
at. Fuck no, don't want to go there.
Totally.
Unless I'm going there to pick up a fish fry and I'm just gonna exit
Oh
right
my
away.
God, don't even say fish fry. Chicago sucks. Like I love
Because
Chicago, but oh, I'm so
like
jealous.
I love the charm of some of these
Mhm.
bars. I go in and be like, it just smells like home. As fucked up as
Totally.
that is to
Nope,
say, but
totally.
like I like the look and the feel, but I just don't want to spend much time there. But like so many bars, like something like X-Ray Arcade or what have you, they've got a hook to it. They've got arcade machines or other things.
Pizza
They're
bagels.
yeah, they have more going on than just going to get drunk. So I appreciate that, and then so it's also not a weird thing to ask for a non-alcoholic drink.
Mhm.
So I definitely do feel more comfortable. Though I need to have a purpose. I need to have a purpose to be there, and I also just appreciate that. Like, because the last time I was at X-Ray Arcade, I actually went to go see the Ned Flanders metal band Oakley Dokley,
Excellent.
and there's this one dude who was there just to like fucking swing his arms and start shit in
In the
the
pit.
pit, and I'm glad that people were like making his life a living hell.
Yay!
And I was like, man, like 5-10 years ago, this might not have been the case.
Definitely was though.
Uh, but it's I feel like I can handle them. I've never had a problem going to them. They're just really dull to me. So there has to be a hook. There has to be a reason for me to be there.
Totally. That like an X-ray. Well, okay. So the other side of that though is X-ray. I went when I was last in Milwaukee for Shrek Fest, which I will plug because Shrek Fest fucking rules. It's in Milwaukee in Humboldt Park. But
And that's my neighborhood. That's where I grew up.
that's right. So that's extremely the shit. But I was
Mm-hmm.
there for the Shrek Fest weekend, and it's one day, but I was there for the weekend. Went to X-ray Arcade, and I forgot that they were like all ages, and I forgot what all ages shows are like when you're like not 20. It was weird. So all ages for them means 17 plus. So they were 17, 18-year-olds there. And I'm like 33 and like drinking. My friend is like smoking weed. And I was like, should we even be like, I worked in Utah for a minute where you're like, you for a long time were not allowed to drink in front of children. So I'm like still in that mindset sometimes. I'm like, can we like be doing this in
It's
front of
crazy
kids?
because I have definitely seen younger than 17
Oh yeah.
at that venue.
Yeah. There was a kid, who
Or
again,
they're just a small 17-year-old. I don't know.
yeah, no, there was a kid last time I was there for Rat Bath.
Oh, I love them. They're
Yeah,
great.
they're great. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right?
Actually, real
BAR.
quick, I
Yeah.
need to say about Rat Bath. I was on the Cinepunks podcast like a year or so ago talking about we were doing a double feature of Cobra and First Blood, which is a whiplash of performance from Stallone. And they always start the episode with a song, just whatever the guest picked. And I was listening to Rat Bath earlier that day. I was like, I'll put them on there. So
Oh yeah,
if you listen to that episode of Cinepunks, Rat Bath plays for a little bit.
Rat Bath. We're big fans. I like Ruth Bader Ginsburg too. A lot of good bands coming out of Milwaukee. But there was a high schooler there who was like, yeah, I travel around to all the shows in Wisconsin, and he was like definitely like 15. To be fair, that was me when I was like 15. But as like a 33-year-old, he was like, I don't know, trying to talk us up, and my friend and I finally had to be like, dude, we are twice your age, literally. Do you want some of this pizza bagel? Because honestly, kid looked hungry. Like that's the most like auntie shit I've ever done. But I was like, oh, I bought an extra one. Do you want it? He was like, no, no, no. And then he ate the whole thing by like digging his fingers into it and eating it. It was really weird and hilarious. But I was like, ah, yes, I am now the elder punk.
There are kids. This will be one of the last things I'll say about this before we move on to the show itself.
I love this. Let's like fucking talk about music. This movie is about music.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it. But go.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. It's like this feels like a good transition. And we can always bring all this shit back up too. What was I gonna say? It's so weird going to shows now and like legitimate kids are not only there, which is cool, especially like the Rave is doing a lot more all ages shows, which is cool. Because that wasn't an option for a lot of times for some bigger acts when I was younger.
I went to the Rave when I was like 16, but they wouldn't let you in under 16.
Well, they're doing younger than 16 now.
Well, I mean, good for them. Good for them.
Yeah.
Though, fine.
But like me and Amanda went to go see Laura Jane Grace play at the Rave, and one because we just went to Oakley Dokley the night before. We were so thankful she opened that show because we left after her because we were tired. But there was like this like I would say 13-year-old there who's like, yeah, I just saw her like last weekend, and then I was at another show this like last night, and like she's coming with her parents, which is super fucking cool, and like she's telling us all these bands that she's seen, and I just want and like and how she's just so fired up. I'm like, I went to one show this month, and I'm tired. And you're doing multiples. You're a cooler kid than I am.
Oh my God. I remember like being, so when I was 14, my mother used to just drive me to Turner Hall Ballroom and just like drop me off. And I mean, that's how I saw, like I saw Antibalas there. I saw a lot of ska bands, the Dresden Dolls,
yeah.
Ooh,
that was a good show.
Yeah, it really was. I have some issues with Amanda Palmer that I won't get into.
I do too.
But
I still
so we
love
agree.
the music.
Cool. But like that band was like formative and very like of that era. And
Cabaret had a resurgence for a little bit.
Oh my God. Yes. But yeah, my mom used to just drop me off at like 14 at these bands, and there would be like 25-year-olds there like doing drugs in the bathroom, and I would just be like, cool, like I'm old enough for this. And now I look at these kids, and I think the culture has shifted. Like there's a much more, not that people do less drugs, like I do drugs obviously, but there's a much more like inclusive and caretaking attitude at shows these days, I think, that I appreciate, especially as someone with like my history with like performance and music. It fucking rules. Like I love now people see kids at shows and they're like, hell yeah, like let's be aware that like young people are at the show, so let's like clean it up, like make sure they're okay, and that's beautiful. It's wonderful.
Yeah. It's nice to see, and there's always going to be assholes everywhere, but it's nice to see that there is a sense of friendship in the music scene. Like, I can go to a concert and I can make a friend for a night. I might not ever see that person again, but I had a friend for a night.
That is, and I really believe it's a shift. So like, I won't get into my full history, like most of it, but like I Me Too'd the Wisconsin punk scene, and
yes,
like,
you did.
So I like, and I was like exiled. Like I don't, I don't perform anymore. I did not go to shows for like many years, and I was someone who would go to a show every night for like 10 years. And
I'm tired thinking about that.
I know. Now, I mean, I was like 24 when I stopped, so I was very young.
Even 24, I think I was too old for that.
Oh my God. But so when I moved to Chicago, I didn't go to shows for a very long time. I've been here for like 7 or 8 years, and I think it's been a long time. But the first show I went to was at the Subterranean off Damon in Chicago. And this couple just like bought me drinks all night just because they were like, oh, hey, you're here alone. Like, let's, we don't get out with our friends ever. So like pretend to be our friend tonight. And it wasn't like weird. It was just like we were both at the same show. They ended up leaving early. And that was awesome to me. I was like, okay, cool. Like we talked about music, And at other shows, it would have always been a creepy guy. I know I've talked a lot about creepy men in the beginning of this, but like it would have always been some creepy dude being like, hey, like, are you here alone? Where's your boyfriend? Like, it's cool. You can hang out with me. And that's like not so much the case anymore.
It's funny. I always got that sense of like camaraderie from wrestling shows when I was younger.
Oh, I believe it.
Because no one ever wanted to go with me. So I would just go like, local wrestling was like front row was like $20, so like anything else that wasn't front row was cheaper than that. And I would take a bus down to like 13th in Oklahoma and walk a couple blocks, and it was usually upstairs of some bar. And I couldn't go to the bar area, but I could go to the show, and I would just make friends because I would sit there by myself. I would just make friends whoever sat next to me. I would never see them again, but they, like there was one time I paid my 2 bits to get in, but I had no money for anything else. And I asked the guy next to me, he was like, "Do you know if there's a bubbler around here?" And he's like, "No, I don't think so." He's like, "Damn." He's like, "You thirsty? I'll buy you a soda." I'm like, "Really?" And I was just like, so like, because I had no money.
Yeah, no, totally. That's me now. But like, as a kid, certainly. Now I go to shows and I'm like, can I afford a gin and tonic? But I love that you brought up wrestling. So in preparation for the show, I was thinking about the era that Spice Girls came out in, and we can like talk about that. And I'll talk about my own like history with Spice Girls, like how I feel. But like, there's something very real about the pageantry that kind of calcified in the 90s as far as like wrestling and pop music. I'm just gonna like group those because the costumes, the big personalities, like there's something about those communities that built up that became so welcoming and enabled so much change with like they had an arc, right? Because wrestling like has I think recently gone through a very real change as far as like treatment of LGBTQ characters. And I'm not into wrestling, but you get the little bits, and I lived in the 90s. So
you hear about it.
Yeah. And like women, women wrestlers, we're not just in the diva era anymore. Not saying wrong with being a diva, but there's more to do. We're bringing back recognition of Black wrestlers and Black wrestling characters. And like that arc was like so delayed, I think, in genres that like profess themselves to be real. Like pop music isn't real, right? But like punk music is. But punk music had all these issues no one wanted to deal with because they opened with, we're not homophobic, we're not racist, we're not, misogynistic. And so whenever that happened, they just like buried it deep instead of like exploring it together. I don't know.
Yeah.
But especially the 90s, like I'm going to talk about later, like Riot Girl, Kurt Cobain, like the attitudes that are happening, aren't just bleeding into like pop, and I'm gonna put wrestling into like this sort of pop genres. Like it's not just bleeding into it, but I think that those formats allowed for real exploration of those themes, and they were allowed to have an arc. And I think that some other genres were really delayed in that way. So in that regard.
All right. Well, then I say we should just get into it.
Let's get into it.
This movie podcast actually discusses movies. Be aware that it may discuss any of the following elements: endings, surprise twists, unexpected cameos, and all manner of spoilers. If this doesn't appeal to you, why listen to a movie podcast? Without further ado, please enjoy our feature presentation, The Shameless Picture Show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Shameless Picture Show. I am your host, Michael Viers, and today we have a very special guest. My guest today is truly one of a kind, and one of my go-to authorities on film. They're a writer, an essayist, cinephile, and we even formed a film festival together for a year, returning for their third and a half appearance, technically, on the show, Josephine Maria Yanasak-Leszczynski.
Beautiful.
Did I get right this time?
Gorgeous.
I practiced it beforehand. So back when I was planning season 7, I knew I wanted to have Josephine on the show. Each time we've chosen a film to dissect, I walk away with a new appreciation for it because I truly love the way you view art. We've talked Dune, we've talked Audition, we've talked The Witch Who Came from the Sea, but I think this will be one of our biggest topics we've covered because we're talking Spice World.
Yes.
Spice World is the feature debut of the music phenomenon known as the Spice Girls. The film, which owes a lot to films like A Hard Day's Night and the Monkees TV series, stars the Spice Girls playing themselves and all the hijinks that ensue being the world's most popular pop act. While the film is lacking in the story department, but it's about the girls getting ready for a big show at the Royal Albert Hall. It's still filled with lots of surrealist comedy, crazy adventures, full-on music numbers, double-decker bus insanity, and let's not forget girl power. The film, much like the Spice Girls, was a box office success and made money not only in the UK but in the United States as well. The film was unfortunately panned by most critics. Gene Siskel called it an entertainment-free dead zone. And Roger, I just thought that was a great little quip. I don't agree with him, but it's a great little quip.
I mean, that's my Chicago boy, and he had a way with words.
He did. And Roger Ebert stated it was the worst movie of 1998 after Armageddon.
I mean, both classics, so I don't know what his issue is. So cool.
However, despite that fact, it's become nearly impossible to find on home video. Oh, despite that, the film has gone on to have a lot of love within the last couple of years, and it was even reappraised by big media outlets. I think the New York Times even wrote a piece about how they like it now. Yep. They were wrong, they said.
Which is shocking, because the New York Times doesn't admit to being wrong about anything. So.
No, they don't. But let's be real, who cares about any of those people? Spend a little time on Letterboxd, and you will find this film is adored by many. Spice World stars Victoria, Emma, Mel C, Mel B, and Jerry as the Spice Girls, and features supporting roles by Richard E. Grant, Alan Cumming, George Wendt, and Roger Moore, and features multiple big-name cameos. I even found a list ranking them. Written by Kim Fuller and directed by Bob Spears. From 1998, this is Spice World.
When the world is in trouble, when our future is in danger, we call upon one man. But when he's busy, he calls 5 girls. Columbia Pictures presents The Spice Girls.
All right, we're coming.
In their film debut, Victoria, Emma, Mel B, Jerry, and Mel C. They're ready for action. Girl power. They're dressed to kill.
Do you want that shaken or stirred?
And thoroughly prepared for any encounter. It's a story of love.
I think with boys, you should be able to just wheel them in.
Yeah, and order them like a pizza.
Yeah, no cheese.
Compassion.
It's really too hot in here. I need a fan.
And misunderstanding.
When the speeding melon hits the wall, there's Christmas for the crows.
What did he say?
I haven't a clue.
Hold on to your knickers, girl!
That's more like it. This January.
Would you like an hors d'oeuvre?
No. But I'll have one of these pie things.
Make your choice.
Oh, I like the blonde one.
No. Sporty.
Rock your world. And spice up your life with the Spice Girls. Spice World.
Yeah, but can they act?
Blah, 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 girl power, feminism, do you know what I mean?
I love that intro. That was so good.
I frantically wrote it before we recorded. So one thing I want to talk before we talk about the movie itself and our history with it, history of the Spice Girls and whatnot. When I first approached you about being on the show, you picked this movie without any hesitation. Yes. You knew this was the movie you wanted to discuss. Why?
Great
what
question.
made you want to was it just on your mind at the time? Where did this come from?
I mean, it was on my mind. I think the 25th anniversary of the Spice World tour was last year, which was sort of contemporary. It was their big world tour, and they had all the members come back and do another tour. And so a lot of my friends were talking about it. I have done so I'm queer. I'm very gay, and I've done a lot of work with my gender and trying to understand that recently, and I still, I don't get it, I'm whatever I am. But growing up, I was very gender confused, and I totally missed the Spice Girls for a lot of reasons. And one reason was I was a tomboy, quote unquote, because I wasn't sure I wasn't a boy. And so I was totally rejecting them. And I don't know, all my friends were so into this film, so into this group. And I just had this very like gut negative opinion of them. And I will say after like talking to my friends about it and watching this movie and listening to some of the music, I'm going to quote Nelson Mandela and say that the Spice Girls are my heroes. You know, like now things have changed, but I love being able to go back and reappraise, and it's kind of therapeutic to like forgive yourself, because like I was very confused as a kid. My parents didn't like the Spice Girls, which we didn't like get into. You know, they didn't want me like looking at women in like tight clothes and like looking up to them, which is ridiculous because like who cares? That's so not what the Spice Girls are about. And I'm just excited. I was so excited to reappraise something that as like I was young, you know, I came out at the right age with the Spice Girls. That I was like so anti, and I'm just excited.
I was excited too when you pitched it because, you know, when I was younger, I was even as a child, I feel like I was a pretentious little dink. Anything like pop music, I told myself was bad. I wouldn't listen to it. It's all, you know, and plus, a boy in the '90s, you wouldn't be caught dead listening to this.
Absolutely not.
But funny enough, they were always in the back of my mind because one, they were just everywhere. Everyone knew the Spice Girls.
Oh, yeah.
But then when this movie came out, growing up, a good friend of mine, his name was Mikey, his twin sister Amber had Spice World on VHS, and whenever we'd have like a weekend sleepover, the deal was like her and her friends could watch a movie, and then we watch a movie. Right. And they would usually choose to watch Spice World or something like that. And I just remember like seeing bits and pieces of it when I had to walk through the room, and like I would just linger more and more because I was fascinated by it, because I was not used to this idea of like this girl band that I don't understand being funny, and being funny in a way that I, even as a young kid, I could understand. And like now I love pop music. I truly do. And anyone who doesn't, I think, just needs to kind of reevaluate themselves a little bit, because it's I'm not saying you have to love all of it, but to hate on pop music because it's popular is stupid.
A friend last weekend said liking pop is the new punk.
Honestly, it feels like that way. Like I was waxing poetically about one of Lord's new albums, and someone's like, "Why do you listen to that?" It's like, why don't you listen to it? It's fucking great. Yeah. So it was fun for me because like there was so much music from that time that the stuff that was popular I wasn't really in tune with, and the stuff that was a little more underground I obviously didn't know about because I was a child. So it's been fun to like go back and just rehear some of this stuff. Like me and Amanda went on a binge like a couple months ago of listening to a bunch of Britney Spears stuff because that's what she really liked when she was a kid. And, you know, we still have our debates of the Backstreet Boys versus NSYNC. And, you know, it's just been fun to reevaluate this stuff. And when you said Spice World, it's like, fuck yeah, it's time. Like, especially because just recently I had seen Josie and the Pussycats for the first time since I was a kid. And I loved that movie. So I was like, fuck yes, let's do this.
I love Josie and the Pussycats. I mean, I am a little biased because my name is Josephine. I used to read the comics as a kid. I love that movie. Something that I love about this movie, Spice World, is that, you know, you talked about there was very little plot. I mean, it's a film about making a film in many ways, right? Alan Cumming is running around. And I will also say, you know, it was panned by critics. When you ask Alan Cumming what his favorite movie was to work on, he says Spice World.
Fuck yeah, he does.
Yeah, so like...
I don't even have to fact check that. I'm just going to say it's true.
Just trust me. But it's, you know, he said it in an interview. Who knows if it's changed? But he said it in an interview several years ago.
A lot of the things I do, I want to challenge sort of artistic snobbery, or just snobbery in general, but artistic snobbery especially. I mean, and that's in a way why I say that my favourite film is Spice World, because I actually I want to say to people, what do you mean when you ask me what my favourite film is? Do you mean like what I think is the best film I've done, or the most successful film, or what is the most fun experience I've had in a working situation? I think it should be the latter for favourite. And I also say the Spice Girls, it was a magical time, but also I want to say it to people because to say, you thought I was going to say, you know, something posh and some, you know, arty thing. Why do you kind of want me to be boxed into your idea of what my choice would be? And I feel like I've got this very eclectic taste. I love the high and I love the low. I continue to do that, and I think that's what makes me tick and what makes me interested and interesting, I think.
And I love that this movie, in comparison to movies like other band movies, right, movies about making music, like Josie and the Pussycats, that one is really a love story. Like there's, there is, her tension with her bandmates and trying to figure out where friendship can live among stardom, right? But, and there's this anti-consumerist glint as well in there. But Spice World to me was really just about the Spice Girls doing their thing. They have a co-writing credit in the film. And not worrying about romance. They have a friend who you never, who's pregnant, and that's just like part of the story,
It feels pure.
Yes.
Like it didn't and it's almost a great bookend with that screenwriter character who's pitching him all these ridiculous plots throughout the movie. And what works so well about this movie is the fact there isn't much plot. I didn't mean it as a slight necessarily. Totally. Because it's simple. It's about like our day-to-day life, and then we have to get to this big show. And then just all the craziness that can happen from it. It's pure. Like I said, there's not like, oh, these two are secretly don't like each other, or there's, like you said, there's not like a guy. They're all the main characters simultaneously.
Yes.
There's not one that takes precedence over another. It's a movie about female equality. And
if they had introduced like a love storyline, one of them would have become, that would have been the main character. So growing
one
up,
spice is not more powerful than the other.
One spice to rule them all.
Yes.
We should have done like a Dune and Spice World like crossover episode. This was a mistake. We fucked up.
I had it written, but I forgot to do it. But I was gonna say somewhere in my intro that we're talking about the prequel to Dune.
Oh yes.
But
before the Great Spice Wars. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that so much. Now I'm like getting warm feelings because now I'm just thinking about Dune. But anyway. So one thing about Spice Girls, I talked about being queer. A queer dirtbag, as I said earlier this week. But I remember very clearly this conversation I had with my dad in elementary school. I struggled in school like so many of us did, but especially with like making friends, especially with girls, right? I'm AFAB, so I was raised a girl. And I remember trying to play with these girls on the playground, and they always wanted to play Spice Girls. And they were like, which Spice Girl are you? Like, pick one. And I didn't know any of them, so I was just like Scary Spice, because I was like a little goth, I like the sound of her. But I remember trying to talk to my dad about it and just saying, like, I'm not into the Spice Girls. Like, nothing about this appeals to me. Like, the idea of, like, dressing up like a girl and, like, wearing makeup. And I was so distressed about it because I couldn't figure it out. At the time, I thought I might be, like, a boy. But I didn't know how to vocalize that. I remember my dad just kind of being like, not all girls are into the same thing, and that's okay. And as you grow up, girls will be in different things. The important thing is that you're all girls. And that like became this whole like, and he didn't mean it to be this like anti-trans, thing, but I did internalize it because I was a child. I was like 7 or 8 years old.
I think he meant it like you're all people.
You're all people, but he wants to make sure I know, it's okay to be a girl. But I just like, then that like, as I grew up in my family, one issue with like figuring out my gender is that women in my family, like you get married and you have kids, and that's a very important part of your identity. And that's not the only thing women can do, obviously. Like, I don't believe that, but in my family, that's very, very, very like, you can do whatever you want, but then also you're going to have kids and like get married. Like, you have whatever career you want. So that kind of melded with this like Spice Girls conversation of like, girls can like different things, but you're all girls. Like, and I just started like projecting that onto Spice Girls. I was like, okay, I'm projecting this like super girly, like, thing. And I had no idea they were so into girl power. Like Jerry Halliwell's whole thing is like girl power, like feminism. She is so like rude and sassy in that movie, and I fucking love it. And all of her quotes like in interviews and stuff. And the Spice Girls rule. Can we just talk about like a little bit about the music of the Spice Girls and like the setting for when they came out? Because I have like so many thoughts there.
Of course, we can go wherever the fuck we want with this conversation. But one thing I want to mention real quick. You mentioned how Jerry, how she's just so quippy and fun. I love that. While I stand by my thought that the Spice Girls are the main character, they're not one who's more important than the other. With what little time we get, we don't really have any character development for the Spice Girls. I know who each one of these characters are based on the little bit we get from them. They are so well defined. And I think I said to you that I think like the most genius thing about this film is because, the Spice Girls they're not professional actors. But everyone else is ramped up so far on the Richter scale in terms of their performance that it makes the Spice Girls seem naturalistic, and it actually helps their performance as well. And I like I was just so fascinated by how much they can just pull focus from whatever's going on in the scene, because they're sharing the scene with some big name fucking actors, some really good actors, and they could still pull focus and be their own true selves. And there's little things throughout the movie that I just absolutely love. Like I love when they're doing that like dance boot camp thing, and they all come out in like their military fatigues, and then you have Victoria who's just wearing like
her stilettos and dress.
And then like when they're all like getting down and climbing through the mud, she just walks around, and it's like she knows exactly who her fucking character is.
And that is it's so like Spice Girls too. Like they're not going to do whatever they don't want, right? Like even though they're in boot camp. It's like pro wrestling. They all know their character. 100%, and that's fantastic. I will also say, I do think that one character has an arc, and I think that's Naoko Mori's Nicola. So their friend who's pregnant. Her boyfriend. I think they briefly mentioned like her boyfriend left or whatever, and they're just like, "Oh no, we'll support you." And there's this like sort of subplot where like, oh, they're kind of ignoring their friend because they're so busy, but then they all come back together at the end. But it's very light. But I do think she goes through like this kind of independence journey just on the side, and it's so random and so lovely. And Naoko Mori is so good. But even her, she shows up, and you're like, cool, this is the Spice Girls' friend. Like we don't need any more explanation of the fact that she's pregnant or like anything.
She's the honorary Spice Girl.
Yeah, like there's nothing needed. Like I know exactly who she is and why she's there. And she's this little 90s cutie, right? Like she's got like the like almost page boy haircut. Like she's a little more like Northwest, and which is something I was thinking about. I think about Riot Girl with the Spice Girls, which I will talk about more about. But do you want me to give a brief overview of how the Spice Girls were formed? Because
please, because I can say for myself, I don't know anything about them. I didn't know if they were like a product, if there was something that they wanted to do. And let's be real, I have a good feeling that a lot of my listeners also don't know.
All right, let's get into it. So I did research. I'm not, like I said, I wasn't a Spice Girls fan. Didn't know very much about them. Turns out they're so fucking punk rock, turns out, in the music business. So during the 90s, we had tons of boy groups, right? Boy bands were getting bigger and bigger. So these guys named, I'm going to pull up their names here, Bob and Chris Herbert, they ran Love Management. And they were like, they saw a place to capitalize on a corner of the market, and that was creating a girl group in response to a boy group. I don't think the intentions were like, oh, girl, like we're going to capitalize on girl power, but easy to slip into that. The 90s were starting to get more of a concept of girl power. So their plan is to have 5 girls who are all who are all extremely different, right? Vastly different is the word I was looking for. So they start holding auditions. So the Spice Girls were like not girls who necessarily knew each other before they were cast. So they get together with Heart Management. They finally cast. There's like all these dramatic stories of like why each one was chosen and whatever, and you can get into that later. And I don't have it memorized, but they get together and Heart Management starts writing songs for them and having them go into extreme boot camps like in the movie. But it's more like you're going to move into a 3-bedroom house together and you're going to be locked in there and songwrite, right? That's like what bands do. So they started doing that, and Heart Management does not want to give them a contract for a long time. They're paying them, and they have it sounds like mainly temp employees. Without a contract, like musicians are in danger of losing rights to their music, losing rights to their image, especially with the Spice Girls. Like, imagine how off the rails they had. So many product placements in a lot of their stuff. That that was, it turns out, all directed by them, because what they end up doing is they plan a showcase to convince Heart Management to give them a contract by basically having people compete for them. Heart Management was like, fine, we'll give you a contract, offer it to them. Their lawyers, the Spice Girls lawyers, say this isn't a fair contract, do not sign it. So they don't. They steal the masters from recording sessions and then go and sign with someone else.
Fuck yeah, Spice Girls.
And these are like, this is, these two guys losing control of their creation, right? Like, they created a fucking feminine monster and she fucking stole that shit and then became the Spice Girls. Amazing.
That's
incredible.
That's the Frankenstein's monster story I've always wanted.
And that's what Spice World is about. No, but you have like moments, right, in Spice World where you see them like when they run away from the bus because they want to run around London. Like, they still have that attitude. They're going to do what they want to do. I also, when I was viewing this movie, I was placing it in context of music I was listening to as a kid. And that was obviously punk, but Riot Grrrl was like huge in the 90s. Obviously, it's when it was created. Kurt Cobain is singing, asking for it with his wife, Courtney Love. Like, we're having this moment where women's issues and talking openly about them is being discussed in music. And Spice Girls is like this culmination of all those conversations into the pop realm in a way that, they sang about love and they sang about relationships, but in the end, it's about friendship. It's about positivity. These very positive messages for girls that were much less based on image, even though they have a very, kind of calculated image themselves. And not based on like getting their identity from, their boyfriend, presumed, male partner. Mm-hmm. So really kind of cool to see that infusion.
And I never thought of it that way, but like Amanda's gotten really big into Bikini Kill the last couple of years, and La Tigre, and I never thought of it that way, but it's like you listen to the lyrics of like Bikini Kill and what they stand for.
Yeah.
Like the content, like the subtext behind what they're saying is, like you said, very similar to that of the Spice Girls. The Spice Girls are just a pop form of it in terms of what the message they're trying to get across. And I don't know if I would have made that connection without you, but that is really fascinating. It's fascinating. This is why I bring you on the show. You're smarter than I am.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I don't think it's true, but thank you. Yeah, I won't say, I do think that the Spice Girls, and I don't feel like I'm super equipped to have this conversation, but they have some of the same issues that, Riot Grrrl ended up having, and that's being mostly white, right? Like homogenous, cis women. Mm-hmm. The black Spice Girl is Scary Spice, which Mel B. I don't super know the backstory of that, but like looking back on it doesn't look great, right? Mm-hmm. So it's, I do think that as far as, and like now we're in this era of, we just had International Women's Day. And one of my issues with International Women's Day is that it's so cis, which is okay in some ways, but it's very like girl boss feminism, which we're currently like having a reaction against culturally. It's very one note, like kind of pro-capitalist, very like white, like presentation of feminism that I think was supported by Riot Grrrl and not the capitalist aspect, but definitely in pop, like Riot Grrrl and pop definitely went more towards that realm. And I do think it contributed to their end as well. I know Jerry Holloway was the first one to leave the group, and she expressed feelings of being disillusioned by the group. Or at least probably her fame and her stardom and what those messages were really ended up having.
I have to say, like, I'm looking at, I have the Wikipedia page of the Spice Girls pulled up in the background. It's one of those things, like, the Spice Girls were a huge part of the 90s, but at the same time, I am legitimately surprised about the amount of time that they were together. For some reason, I thought it was like a 2, maybe 3 year thing, 1, maybe 2 out. Like, I was surprised that their official like timeline says 94 to 2000. Like, that's longer than I was expecting. Because I just kind of, in my mind, the way I remember the Spice Girls, because I don't even know how they broke up or anything like that. In my mind, it felt very much like a flash in the pan, but a really big one, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's just how I remembered them.
I think there's some gender differentiation here too, because the 90s, the Spice Girls absolutely defined it for me, but I was I was AFAB, I was being raised as a girl. So like, I think that would have stayed in my purview for much longer, because all the media that was being fed to me. And I talked before about how my parents were super into the Spice Girls. They never said like, we're not going to, no Spice Girls in this house. But and I talked about this, I think, on previous podcasts, but like as a kid, my parents were very, second wave feminists, and they like dressed me in gender neutral clothes until I could pick my own clothing. I was old enough to like express an opinion. Like I had my brother's hand-me-downs, and then they like wouldn't let me, like Disney movies were basically banned in their house. There were a couple we were allowed to watch, but anything with like a helpless princess, absolutely not, which totally fueled my fairy tale obsession, right? And I'm not obsessed with the princess fairy tales, but as a kid, like whenever I could like read these books of fairy tales, it felt a little illicit.
But I get that.
Yeah, but so I think the Spice Girls, if you don't listen to the music and if you weren't like hearing them talk, all that you saw were these posters of these girls in push-up bras and extremely short skirts, and these big sexy stripper boots. And that, I think, to my parents was like, it was not a good look, right? Like that's not something they necessarily wanted their kid to look at. And I was into Riot Girl at a young age, but that was also not, my parents weren't against it. They like they were fine with Riot Girl, but neither of them like really listened to it. And if you listen to Riot Girl and you look at what those women are wearing, they're wearing, it's not as shiny as the Spice Girls, but they're sexually liberated. That is part of the point. So I don't think, I love the Spice Girls, and I don't blame my parents for like kind of trying to discourage me getting into those things, but it was confusing. I don't know, there were a lot of confusing messages happening, I think, for everyone around gender and sexuality in the 90s, but it was a confusing time.
So what did you think about the movie? Was this your first time seeing
This is my
Spice
first time seeing it, and I think this is a great chance to say thank you so much to Jeff, our dear friend Jeff. This movie, like you mentioned, is impossible to find. I had a friend look into trying to find the DVD or Blu-ray or whatever for me, and it's like $100 for any sort of media.
I didn't try looking. I didn't go as far as to look in other countries. Because I know it had a couple re-release. I didn't go that far. But like if I was also gonna start looking for like VHS copies. Like I was just gonna, however I could find it.
I have friends who have VHS copies, and I know the Music Box Theater in Chicago has a VHS copy on the shelf, and I think it's such a testament to Chicago's movie-going culture that like that hasn't been fucking ripped, like stolen, like just sitting there. And I was like, should I try to borrow this illegally? Just kidding. I love the Music Box. I would never steal from them. But disclaimer. But I have friends who have like the VHS, but I don't have a VCR, so it's like when we play a movie night, it becomes the whole thing. Yeah. But the movie, so Jeff, point being, Jeff fucking rule. Thanks for giving us access to this film. One of my favorite people. The movie. I loved this movie. I loved it. That's all I'm gonna say for now. I loved it. Loved this movie.
Yeah, and I don't know. I went into it feeling like I was gonna love it, like just because like I remember saying to Amanda before I sat down to watch it, and said that is like, if this is even half as good as Josie and the Pussycats, we're in for a treat.
Totally.
And like I already had it in my mind from childhood that there was things about like it blew my mind at a young age, because like I said, I didn't see the entire movie growing up, but I saw bits and pieces of it. But the part that I've seen the most was them breaking the fourth wall at the end, talking to the audience.
Yeah.
And at I was about like 7-8 years old, about 8 to 9 years old when this movie came out. I didn't think you could fucking do that.
Totally.
And that blew my mind. And so I just had it in my mind already that, not to say, Spice World's not the first movie to break the fourth wall, but I don't know, I just had in my mind that this movie is going to be doing something interesting. And the simple fact that I don't really hear anyone talk about this movie because it is just it was made just as a vehicle for the Spice Girls.
Okay.
Good, bad, or otherwise, no one's talking about Spice World. Granted, no, people are talking about the Spice Girls in general right now. But I was like, I guess I just had it in my heart that I was hoping that this was going to be like a rediscovery. This was going to be like unearthing a classic that people aren't talking about as much. Like I was hoping I was going to come out of this loving it, or at very least had a great time watching it. Because let's be real, we've all seen those movies. Like that movie was a train wreck, but goddamn was it fun, you know. But this movie was not a train wreck. It was very competently made, and Bob Spears knew what the fuck he was making. Kim Fuller knew what the fuck she was doing when she wrote it. There's so much intention in this film.
100%. And getting back to like the narrative thing, I love the day in the life. It's very Cleo from 5 to 7. If I could just put a little Agnes Varda reference in there, and then to have, I mean, it is like I have kind of a, I vacillate between being extremely rude in my film criticism and like crass, and then being like, there's a term for it, but like basically elevating trash genres, right? Like the idea of like, oh, we're going to talk about them like they're, and I
that's what we bonded over.
Hell yeah. So Spice World is not trash by any means. It was very intentionally made. When I look at it, I do see like, okay, Cleo from 5 to 7, right? We're following these girls during a set period of time. They're already famous. Like, there's no reach to stardom here. They're famous as hell. They're trying to figure that out. They have their own identities. But then also like the idea of it being a film within a film, because Alan Cumming is like, chasing them around, trying so badly to get this documentary made. And then we have a secondary film within a film where they're making a commentary on movies, where the guy is pitching, the network and trying to get these ridiculous movies made. Like, those were such cool commentaries, and somehow they still didn't make the whole movie about that. It really was just
it's just a series of bits, essentially.
A series of bits, yeah. But I do think it's going somewhere. Like, I do think it has structure in the same way that momentum. Cleo did,
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's not just... It's not something like Hollywood Shuffle where it's just a bunch of skits thrown together. Like it has its true north. It has its roots. These are just things that are branching off, but it almost uses that bus as its forward momentum, because no matter what happens in this film, as long as they get back to the bus is going to go to the next stop.
Okay, you know that I love looking at films through transportation, and that is a beautiful analogy, and I love that. Michael, I think that might be like the best film criticism I've ever heard from you, like a piece of film analysis. Nailed it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to put that on my resume.
Yeah. You can put a little poll quote from film critic Josephine Maria Yanasak-Leszczynski. I really do love that. I'm like blown away that you said that. That's so beautiful. I like tears in my eyes. I'm so proud of you.
It took me 7 years of doing this podcast, but I got there.
You nailed it. This is it. This is the episode. This is the one. Can we talk about the cameos? Can you read? Do you have a list pulled up of all the cameos? Can you read everyone who's in this movie?
This one is the definitive ranking, so it's going to put them in order of what they think are the best cameos. Okay. But it is everyone.
Cool.
All right, so going from, I guess, lowest to highest, whatever, it's Mark McKinney and George Wendt. Then they got Claire Rushbrook. Stephen Fry's got a cameo in this.
He's at the lower end. He's at the lower end of these rankings.
Yeah, surprisingly.
Wow. I'm gonna argue these as you go. Okay, go.
Michael Barrymore. Jules Holland.
Yep.
Jonathan Ross. Richard O'Brien. He doesn't really feel as a cameo. He was kind of a full character.
He had a character. Yeah, that's not a cameo, but that's fine. They had a lot of famous people in the movie too. Like.
Yeah.
Speaking of Cabaret and Alan Cumming. All
right. Kevin McNally, which I didn't recognize him in this movie.
Yeah, there were a lot of people in very plain clothes or in like characters, and it was confusing sometimes trying to figure out who was who.
Jennifer Saunders. Roger Moore.
Oh yeah, that was.
Which I saw his name in the credits and it didn't process, but then as soon as I saw him, I like chortled.
Him with that cat, like everything, every Roger Moore. So like we talk about how great this movie is and how great the Spice Girls are. Roger Moore stole this movie. Like it's a Roger Moore vehicle.
Just speaking
amazing.
Nonsense.
So okay, I really want to think that he ad-libbed all that, but I'm sure he did.
Yeah. I like to I don't know what I like better. The idea that they said, "Hey, do you want to be in a Spice Girls movie?" And he got like, and he's like, "Fuck yes, I do," and he is in it. Or that he didn't realize he was in a Spice Girls movie. I don't know which is funnier.
Oh, so good. Okay.
This is also not a cameo, but Alan Cumming.
Yeah, he's a character.
Meatloaf.
Meatloaf was hilarious. All of them were hilarious. They were all great.
His completely sincere. I love these girls, but I won't do that. Because like I didn't see them turning it into that joke.
Does he do that joke like anywhere else? Like if I were Meatloaf,
I don't think so.
I would never make that. You know, I mean, I was like, okay, I get it, ha ha ha. But like, I feel like I just love the narrative. Like we're gonna build a little fan narrative here that like for the Spice Girls, these people would do anything. You know.
Can I tell a fun little
Please.
what I think is a fun little Meatloaf story?
Yeah.
So Meatloaf's real name is Michael Aday. And when he was first getting into acting, like this is also like back when he was a big like music star, he was gonna do like Shakespeare in the Park or something like that, and he got a role in it, and they're like, okay, well, we're gonna put your name on the marquee, we're gonna put Meatloaf, and he's like, don't put Meatloaf. He's like, put Michael Aday, and he's like, why don't you want to put Meatloaf? He's like, no, like he's like, you know how dumb that looks. I don't remember what show it is, which is Midsummer Night's Dream starring Meatloaf. And the director goes, the Bard himself would want you to be Meatloaf. and ever since then, he's like, okay, I'll credit myself as Meatloaf.
The ghost of Shakespeare told Meatloaf to credit himself as Meatloaf.
Yeah, so I just think that's funny that like this director who just said William Shakespeare would want you to be Meatloaf, and he's stuck with it.
And that is directing, right? Like that is pro personality management right there.
Yeah,
like that's it. Fantastic.
Yeah. Plus, he was also covering his ass because he wanted people to buy tickets because Meatloaf.
Yeah, no one's gonna buy a ticket for Michael Aday. Sorry.
No.
Sorry.
Hugh Laurie. Mm-hmm. Which that was the one I texted you.
I know. I thought that was so funny. When you got to that,
Poirot.
I was like, knew where you were. I was like, I know exactly how you're feeling.
Bob Hoskins.
Yep.
Which I loved that. I loved. Hold on. I wrote down the exact quote. Bob Hoskins saying, "Girl power, equalization between the sexes," but with was it Jerry's voice?
Yeah, that's her whole thing, Jerry Holloway. So she's Ginger Spice.
I do have to say, though, the idea that Bob Hoskins has been in a lot of weird movies, and he still thinks Super Mario Brothers is the worst thing he's done. Like, I just
problematic.
Can't. Yeah.
Canceled.
Dominic West. And Richard E. Grant. That's not a cameo. This is a weird list. Bob Geldof. And then number 1, Elton John.
Okay, they missed one. They missed my favorite one.
Who'd they miss?
They missed Elvis Costello. He was the bartender, and that was the best.
How did?
Okay, don't get me started, but people don't know Elvis Costello, and there's something wrong with all of y'all. I'm gonna get real Milwaukee right now. Elvis Costello fucking rules. Yeah, that was my favorite. Okay, I was like waiting. I was like sitting here on the edge of my seat waiting to freak out about how good. So Elvis Costello is a bartender in the film, and he just like. They don't even say like all the other characters. I feel like they're like, oh, Meatloaf. Oh, here's a recognizable face. But he literally just kind of in the background, like doing a cocktail shaker
and doing it really well. Like there's this one little moment when she gets his attention a second time, and he turns around, and he almost plays it as if like, you're gonna recognize me, aren't you?
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh, can you make it a double?" And he goes, "Yes, I can." But like just the way he performs it really felt like it's not Elvis Costello playing a bartender; it's Elvis Costello as tending bar.
Yep, 100%. And I think that is what it was supposed to be. And again, once again, about everyone knowing who they were. Like when you get a cameo, you never know if you're playing, the straight man, in a goofy scene. Whether you're playing being the one who like is supposed to be normal and like the celebrity in the scene, or if you're playing a version of yourself, which I think a lot of these people in this film did. I think Elvis Costello like has this very wandered onto set quality, and he just decided to make himself a martini, and he was like, "Oh, you want one too? Cool. All right, let's do it."
Yeah, and I think in the credits it's even just credited as Elvis.
Yeah, he rules.
So he's playing himself.
What is that? Is it Stanley Tucci who has that cocktail video that everyone was freaking out about a couple years ago, where he's like making Negronis or something?
Possibly.
Okay, well, some hot older male actor. Whenever I saw that video, I thought of Elvis Costello, because I'm like, Elvis Costello is the original, like, I want to see someone make a cocktail person, and this film does that. And,
actually, now that I'm thinking of it, Elvis Costello has two of my favorite cameos in comedies.
What's the other one?
The other one is Austin Powers 2.
Oh, yeah!
Where he's inexplicably back in the 60s.
Oh, my God, Elvis Costello.
Because like that's the best part about it. He has Burt Bacharach and Elvis Costello playing a song for him, and they're back in the 60s, and Elvis Costello is there for some reason. And it's so funny to me.
I mean, Elvis Costello
and it's a legitimately good song.
60s. I just don't think he was making music then,
Probably not, no. But it's Elvis. So, you rock Elvis Costello. This is now just the Elvis Costello love fest.
Yeah, this is
because he also doesn't get enough credit for his music.
At all. I mean, we're talking about pop music, right? The idea that they would include, Meatloaf, who's a rock pop guy, right? And then Elvis Costello, who, is making pop music, but it's closer to the jazz. Like we're talking about a jazz tradition coming out of that. And melding it with like rock and all this other stuff, but he's not, a household name like Meatloaf is necessarily. And I love that they included him. He was a household name in my household, growing up. We talked about what kind of music we were into. I was listening to punk, but my dad is
which Elvis Costello kind of has a foot in that world.
No, totally. When I say pop, like I like grouping him with pop because pop can touch all genres, right? Like all subgenres. And I really think he's got, this blues R&B sensibility about his music, but then he's got a very punk, attitude towards lyrics and treatment of subjects. Not to get too into music, theory here, but my dad was really into jazz. He's a jazz and blues enthusiast. My father was a really good blues guitarist. He won't talk about it or do it publicly, but he is. It's why I taught myself guitar. But growing up, we're listening to Bob Dylan, Elvis Costello, a lot of girl groups and groups from the 60s. My dad used to be a DJ. But all that music kind of to me melds together in Elvis Costello, who we listen to all the time in the car. Two of my brothers are jazz musicians. I was supposed to be a jazz singer. I became a writer instead. It was such a joy to me to have this movie about this genre and group of people who I rejected include something that was so deep to my childhood, which is Elvis Costello.
Yeah, because having someone like Meatloaf in this movie is not surprising. Having someone like Elton John is not surprising. Elvis Costello is the surprising choice.
Surprising and a treat, just absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, it's hilarious to have him, Meatloaf, say this incredibly recognizable thing, and then have Elvis Costello are you going to recognize me?
And also deliver it in a really believable way too.
Totally.
I remember I texted you as soon as Elton John popped up, because any movie with Elton John's going to go higher on the scale for me, just because I love that man to no end. My Amanda got me tickets to see him when he came to Milwaukee, and I was so in shock that I didn't feel anything when she got him for me.
Wow.
And then my drive to work the next day, I was crying the entire ride home listening to Rocket Man. So
good. That's such a good story. I love that. God, yeah. Elton John really sealed. Elvis Costello really sealed the film for me. I'm glad that Elton John I have something for everyone, right?
Yeah. And what I liked so much about this movie as I was watching it is I love that, like I said, they have these strong, reinforced characters. They know the roles they're playing. I vaguely remembered all of their nicknames, Sparty Spice, Scary Spice, whatever. But as I was watching, I never looked them up, but as I was watching the movie, I was instantly able to point out which one was which, just based on their personality. And I love that, but I also love that they have no qualms making fun of themselves. They have no qualms looking ridiculous. That scene where they're imagining themselves as parents, as mothers. They have no problems putting on, schlepping on this really like bad makeup and wigs and really up in the Cockney accent and just having fun with it.
How my Gloria gets her clothes so dirty, I'll never know. Bless her.
Oh, my poor back.
I don't know how you can have any more of them kids. You got 6 already, haven't you?
Is it 6? Yeah, but they're so cute when they're little and then they grow up to be real little bleeders.
Thank God for boarding school. I only see mine once a month.
Well, I'll tell he goes to me.
Cheers.
He goes, Ma, I want to be a singer. I said, listen, lads, go to college, get yourself a proper job. Does he listen? No.
They never do, though, do they? I mean, darling, kids today, they don't know how lucky they are. Ruthie, Demi, you turn that bloody racket down.
100%. And I also, when we talk about, gender and subverting gender stereotypes and expectations, that scene was so good to me because they were like saying, we're not going to be that. That's not what we're going to do. In feminist circles, especially in the 90s and 2000s, we talk a lot about wanting more than our mothers, or like our mothers wanting more for us. And I feel like that scene was like this very feminist, like, a little anti-mother, like, those mothers put up with tons of shit that they're like spoofing. But I love that they were like, here's what it was. This is, they're probably each, kind of embodying their own mothers. And, we're not going to do that. We're going to do what we want to do, which is run off this bus and run around London.
Another thing that I just feel like I was impressed by with this movie, because sometimes when you get these, I don't necessarily want to call it a musical, but a movie that has musical numbers featured throughout it could just kind of feel like they're building towards those and everything else is just kind of like halting so they can do them. The way that the musical numbers were integrated into this film never felt forced. They never overstayed their welcome. It wasn't like, I say this as someone who loves some of those really shitty Elvis movies. It didn't feel like one of those shitty Elvis movies where they were just like, whatever, people aren't paying attention, just get him to sing.
Yeah.
And they just throw in bullshit in between. Like, they all felt organic. And then, as much as every time they were singing, I was loving it, but every time they'd get back to their hijinks, I'd love that as well. So, like, it just... I never felt like I was just waiting for something to stop or waiting for something to happen. And I also love that I just feel like this feels like a whiteboard movie in a good way, where they're just throwing up all these weird ideas and just seeing what they can get. Like that scene where they meet the aliens. And I love that the Spice Girls can speak an alien language.
Yep. Of course
it's subtitled for us because we're not Spice Girls. We don't know what they're saying, but they do.
100%. No, that scene, I would love to see an analysis of, those tour movies, like Katy Perry had one where it's like a 2-hour film about going on tour or like making an album. I would love to see analysis of those compared to this movie, because those didn't come out until like the mid 2000s, if not, after the aughts. And this movie very much to me was just about their career. It's like, yeah, there's a musical number because they're performing right now. That's just where, that's what's happening in the movie. And I feel like the direction to that was very new for this time period, but I see hints of it in those tour movies, which is not something I'm like super into. I'm not really into like pop icons. I know there are people right now, there are women especially who I follow, who are like experts in like pop icons like Beyonce and all those. I feel like the Spice Girls was the beginning of that phenomena, and I wonder how much this movie or movies it came after kind of influenced how we approach icons and attaching their personal lives to their professional lives. And the Spice Girls too, like I don't remember super well, but in the 90s you never like saw the Spice Girls like not being Spice Girls. You know what I mean? I'm sure there was like tabloids that were trying to catch them or whatever, but when they were out in public and stuff, they were like dressed like their characters, and they were, because their characters were them ostensibly.
And so much so that actually one of my favorite scenes in this movie was when they were joking about creating new personas for themselves, and they were all trying on each other's personas, and ultimately realized that it didn't fit because they're not being their true selves.
100%. I also love that there wasn't a strict division. Like, they were still very much a unit. Like, there's a scene where they're in the bus the first time, and one of them has stolen the other's boots. Mm-hmm. And, like, that to me, because in my brain, like, I'm thinking about the Spice Girls the way I would think about, like, you know, a group of cartoon characters. Like, let's talk about, like, Powerpuff Girls. Like, they would never share costumes or, like, space in their bedroom, right? Like, it's, like, all very separate, and they're the idea that these are girls who live together and hang out together, and, like, they can swap clothes, even though their personas are so different, was also just a nice little moment to me in building the Spice Girl, you know, Spice Girl world building.
Yeah, and I also love that they would, because their friends would poke fun at each other, but they never looked down on anyone for being different than them. Right. You know, like Victoria. Mm-hmm. She's obviously, based on her name, she's very posh. She's very into her look, and a lot of them are, but they don't look down on her for being that way, just like they don't look down on Sporty for not dressing the way that they do.
100%.
And she stole every scene she was in. She was great, actually, in this movie.
100%. And I do love that Victoria, so Posh Spice, is not a snob. She just likes her fashion, right? Like, she likes wearing the same dress, you know, in different colors every day, slightly different cuts. Like, she could have easily been this very negative, like, villain, and they didn't pick a villain, right? There's no real villain in this, except for maybe, like, the movie industry.
Yeah, and, like, what's great about her is, like, she rolls her eyes at everything.
Yes.
Just because that's her character. She's not rolling her eyes because she doesn't want to do things. She just feel like she just rolls her eyes. Like, but yet, like, I love when those parents were like, "Can you come talk to my son who's in a coma?" She's the first one to get up and do it.
Yep.
She rolls her eyes while doing it, but she knows what she's gonna do.
100%, and she cares. You know, I mean, they're all there because part of their persona, right, is that they're these very caring, positive girls. And I love that she can be like the whole "you should smile more," you know, thing. Like, Posh Spice doesn't, you know, she's not smiley like, you know, Baby Spice or one of the other ones would be. And I love that she can just be, you know, like, have her, you know, for lack of a better term, resting bitch face like I have, and I appreciate that so much. I was like, hell yeah, let's have some representation for resting bitch face. I'm so sorry, Victoria Beckham. I'm sure she'll listen to this. I'm sure, like,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I imagine out of all the Spice Girls who might listen to this, I feel like Victoria Beckham's going to be the one who
we're a big
I think
fan.
will listen.
We're a big fan.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying to, like, as we've been sitting here talking, I've been trying to bring out my critical mind of, like, what are things that I didn't necessarily like about the movie, and I can't really find. I just had a great time while watching it. If anything, I wish it would have been a little bit longer.
Totally.
And, like, because, like I said, I was enjoying all the musical numbers, and they just, as a good music movie should, they just kept building and getting better as they went along. I love that they were shining a light on the fact that this is a show, this is a production. You know, they're not hiding from the fact that during some of these performances they're lip syncing.
Yes.
And I also love too, this is a small thing, so they're always in character because this is who they are. That's how they're trying to present it. Uh-huh. I loved that we'd oftentimes get rehearsal footage of them where they were still their characters, but they were dressed slightly different. They're dressed down versions of these characters. Like, anytime was it Mel C, Scary Spice?
Mel B.
Or was it Mel B?
Yeah,
Mel B.
Melanie C is
anytime she had her glasses on, I was like, oh, it's rehearsal time. Like, it's little details like that I found myself really appreciating. And, like, I also appreciate that they didn't have to waste a lot of time, for lack of a term, with the Batman origin story of it all. Like, we grew up with the Spice Girls, so we know who they are, but I'm no expert on them. I never needed the movie to tell me who they were. They're the Spice Girls. To quote Kiss, are the hottest band in the world. Everyone loves them, but people want to see them. Like, I didn't need anything else.
Yeah.
I mentioned in my intro that there's at times it feels like a lack of story, but I don't know if I necessarily needed more story. I liked these fights of fancy. I liked them kind of delving into their imagination. Because at the same time, I imagine you're on a tour bus all the time, and your life is pretty much living to gig over and over again. That's what you're gonna need. Like, your life is gonna consist of your own imagination and having fun with your friends.
Definitely. I do think that, I wonder if we're reacting to a lack of exposition over a lack of narrative. Because
that could be.
It has, to me, it has as much narrative as, CLEO, to bring it back to CLEO 5 to 7. I don't know why I'm so hung up on that movie today, but I am. This is my...
to give him a plug, Rough Cut Fan Club just released a new CLEO shirt and short combo.
I cannot talk about Rough Cut or Rucking Cotton. I am so broke, and I need to stop releasing anything.
Well, I need to mention them because they're kind of my show hosts. So.
Oh, well. What's up, Rough Cut? We love you. Send me a free shirt. Send me some free shirts. Sorry. We can talk about the puns. I love them. I just already have enough t-shirts. So that's a lie. Send me them for free. Thank you. I'm a medium. So anyway, CLEO from 5 to 7. Things happen in that movie. Obviously there was a script, but it's very much about following a young girl around. And there's not exposition like, oh yes, this is CLEO. She's a famous whatever. Like, and she's dating this guy. And like, it's just kind of like, she's like in her apartment complaining about men on a swing for whatever reason. And then she like goes to the doctor because she might have cancer. And then at the end of the film,
I love
it's like,
the swing.
Oh my God, I love it. Well, I use that scene all the time where she's like, I'm too good for men. Favorite, like, true. And I need that on a t-shirt, just like that screen cap.
Are you listening, Liam? We need that on a t-shirt.
But my point is just, I think that there's a lack of exposition, and not necessarily a lack of narrative. The narrative, it's not being shoved down your throat.
Yeah, and it's like there's a lot of plot in this film. It's not plot that necessarily serves the narrative, but it serves the character. It's everything.
You
everything
can tell
in
you
this
write
movie
movies
is
because you're like, it doesn't serve the narrative. And I'm like, I wouldn't even have thought of that. It was just something like,
but it's all character building. It's all stuff that I honestly look for. It's the stuff that in a screenwriting class they would have told you to cut out because it doesn't serve the plot or doesn't serve the narrative. And I'm like, this is the shit that I like. Like I said, I think some of it is just like I'm still coming down from the high of Spice World. I've had just a little too much spice in my life, and I had a great time with it. And it's weird to say that I think there should be a rediscovery of the Spice Girls, because the Spice Girls, as I said, were one of the biggest bands in the world, but I still don't feel like they're talked about the same way that other people are.
Again, I wonder if we have a gender thing here, because
that's true.
So I'm non-binary, so maybe to the front for viewers, listeners, but I'm femme, and all of my femme friends were really excited last year when the 25th anniversary of Spice World Tour happened. So I did hear about the Spice
and that
Girls
very well could be, and also I probably some of it too is I don't fall in a lot of circles that talk about pop music.
Totally.
I'm kind of the guy that talks about pop music.
Yeah, I think that's true, especially for you. I think, we are both, I feel like I get typecast a lot. I imagine you get typecast a lot as far as oh yeah, the horror fan. That's, I'm like the goth girl asterisk, and people don't talk to me about pop music very often, or pop genres. And I fucking love them in a lot of ways, and I wish they would, but it's just kind of a shame, because I'm so much more than just a fan of horror and horny werewolves. There's more to me. Not much, but there is.
No, it's like I've said before. It's like people don't expect, the guy who's listened to Black Flag to want to talk about the new Lorde album.
But that is and to go back to what my friend Zach said, had that quote, by the way, about pop being the new punk.
Absolutely truthful.
It's still punk, and also you cannot argue that punk became popified very quickly. And on top of that, you can't argue that punk didn't have this huge effect on pop music, and that pop music is not dealing with all of the same themes that punk was, in the late 70s to 90s.
Just because something's playing on the radio doesn't mean it's less interesting.
Yes. And I was thinking about music overall. I know we talked about, music, concert culture earlier, but I've gotten really into hip hop, and especially like the more pop like genres of hip hop, because it's easier to find and get into initially. But I'm listening to all these artists who I'm finding and are being recommended to me by the algorithms because they're queer. They're openly queer. They've worked with like, Jay-Z and he and all these, sorry to say his name on your podcast, but they've worked with all these like major names, and they're trans women or, out bisexual men. And like that as a kid, like it is unheard of that hip hop artists would be fucking gay, and like go on a song and talk about sucking dick. You know what I mean? Like that is, some of these artists are talking about holding hands with, their boyfriends or whatever. And that's beautiful. And I love it. Or they're just being fucking nasty about queer sex. And I'm so about that. Like, I love holding hands, and I love, nasty ass queer sex. Like, that is.
Yeah, like the only, like, in high school and, like, then going into college, like, the only place that I ever got stuff like that was from, like, indie music. Like, if I wanted to hear on the same record someone talking about holding hands or nasty queer sex, I had to, like, listen to the Magnetic Fields.
Yes. And even in the punk scene, like punk as a term came from a diminutive of, or not diminutive, but like an offensive term for bumming, right? For having gay male sex, like punk.
That I didn't know.
Yeah,
that's fun.
It was co-opted, but
that's
it's
the
like
fun fact for the episode.
Fun fact, yeah. So the origins of punk though was still like the faces that you saw and the people who we credit are still these white cis het male people, but it came from like a reaction to people calling people the F word for gays, essentially. And it's like, I hate that punk became so like straight, and I love all the anti-capitalist stuff, but like it was supposed to be about nasty ass queer sex in your face, like, yeah, I'm fucking gay, fucking get over it. That was like where it was supposed to come from, and it feels in very many ways kind of a co-opted genre. Like it then became about like suburban angst or like not wanting to be like my parents, but like that not necessarily being gay. Like I'm not like my parents, but that's a big part of that is because I'm a fucking queer weirdo, right? Like I'm a queerdo. Queer dirtbag,
And I realized, like in high school, I kind of had a shitty punk band going. We never wrote any actual songs, so we rarely like, we were kind of like trying to do covers and trying to figure out what our sound was going to be. But I realized,
I love when you're like young and you try to start with the subgenre and not the music. Like all my bands started with like, we're going to be like a post Riot Girl band, and then that meant like whatever the fuck we were making. We should just start
and it was a whole thing. No one wanted to sing, so I kind of got co-opted into it. I was a terrible guitarist. I could play like 4 sludgy chords.
That's fun.
The really good guitarist in the group didn't want to do it. He wanted to be like rhythm guitar. And then our drummer just got a double bass pedal, so everything had to be just fucking fast. And then we had a keyboardist. I don't know, it was fucking weird. And I learned really early on that, because I wanted to be a punk band because that's what I liked, and that's the only thing I could probably play. And I realized, I can't be a punk band because I have nothing to fucking say. And that's the problem, because like, it's like the punk music that was really moving me, it was about something.
Yeah.
I half-assed wrote one song, and it was called.
So you didn't just write like TV Party Tonight, like that's no.
No, I started writing one song, and it was I've got nothing to be angry about, and that pisses me off.
I love that. I love self-aware punk. Let's bring it back.
I never finished the song, but that's all I had going for it because I was frustrated that I had nothing to talk about. And to bring it back to the Spice Girls, I love, that's one thing I found myself really liking about their songs, is I felt like they were about something.
Totally.
Something is, and it's, like I said, they do sing about love or whatever, relationships, but like the big thing that really stuck with me is the song is about friendship. So many, like, you know, that their most famous song, you know, if you want to be my lover, you got to get with my friends. If you don't like my friends, you can fuck off. That's essentially what that song is about. Or you know, you can, what was that? You can join my gang or something like that. Like.
Compromise.
Well, it hurts back.
That's the compromise.
Hey, Bobby Shotgun! Coolie police in the air!
I want to join their gang. They seem cool.
100%.
And I feel like that's why they were a big deal, is because they wrote really ear-pleasing songs that were about something.
They were about something, and I do think that their audience was projected to be younger girls, mostly, right?
Mhm.
Like, they weren't necessarily being maybe tweens. The tween wasn't like, tween became a real concept in the like aughts, which was a little bit after Spice Girls. But they, you know, they were, you know, there are videos, there are a couple of videos that I find a little pedophilic in the way that they interact with young boys. Like, it's very like, oh yeah, we're the Spice Girls. Like, there's the one where they're the fairies and they're like giving in kisses, and it's really weird. Maybe very uncomfortable. I can't remember which one it is, but very uncomfortable for me personally as a viewer. But I do think that they were at a younger audience. I was trying to look up, one was Britney Spears. Like, when did she rise to? It was the 90s, but
Yeah, it definitely was. Let's find out. Wow, you type Britney and everything but Spears comes up.
Rude.
That's cool. Britney Snow's one of the first people to come up.
Oh, okay, well.
Okay, so her years active says she started in 92, but that doesn't mean anything.
I think 94 was like
so Oops, I Did It Again was 98, so it was right around this time.
Okay, cool. So my point stands. Cool, thank you. Thanks for the research assist. Britney Spears is a pop artist who came out then, definitely defined girlhood in a lot of ways, and how going into my tween years, so I was born in 90.
She also wrote some bangers.
Okay, Britney Spears is fantastic, but my point is, knowing everything we know now, and then even about how she entered the music industry, how controlled she was by the men around her and her family. She was constructed as a teenage boy fantasy, and to really, or in adult male fantasy. Like, the whole schoolgirl thing is not for other teen boys. It's for men. You know, it's pretty fucking gross. But I as a girl, you know, you're pushed into that, right? Like, especially in the end of the 90s, we start getting this reaction to a lot of the second wave feminist, like Riot Girl type stuff that's happening, where now we're sexually liberated, and they want to put us back into the box of like, we exist for the pleasure of men. And Britney Spears, unfortunately, the image that they created for her was very much something that like I was pushed into in middle school. That's when you start having very sexually charged, I don't know, interactions, but expectations about how you dress. And not that there's anything wrong, you know, we should not be sexualizing a child in a crop top, like, period.
Mhm.
We shouldn't be sexualizing anyone in a crop top unless they want to be sexualized, but a child in a crop top. But that was like, all the clothes started to be very like, you know, sexual and for someone else's gaze. And I think that other pop music was really doing that. And even though Spice Girls were wearing their, their tight tops, their tight skirts, they were running around with their friends. They were like talking about positivity. They were, it was, even though they looked a certain way, they weren't pushing this very like, Britney Spears, oops, I did it again, situation.
No, I completely agree.
And I love Britney, not to like diminish her at all, but and her songs. Because I listen to Oops, I Did It Again all the time. As an adult, as a kid, I just pushed against that, as I pushed against everything girly.
And then Amanda's got me hooked on the song "Lucky." That song it gets stuck in my head so easily.
I'm a toxic bitch. Like I'm a toxic bitch, but I'm not. I'm very emotionally aware and I have great emotional intelligence. And I'm single. But Britney Spears, that song "Toxic" like definitely defined my like tween years and middle and like high school years. The idea that she is this femme fatale who's like fucking killing guys, it was like really formative to me, and I have carried that attitude with me into my 30s. So good, like. Yes.
So I feel like we've discussed quite a bit when it comes to Spice Girls in Spice World. Before we start wrapping up, was there anything that you felt like you wanted to touch on further?
Like there's so much of this movie. I know when we were talking about it, we were like, neither of us are really like Spice Girls people, and I wish were able to have someone on who was. I mean, because I love so much about them, like the fashion, fascinating, fantastic. I do think that it was very, very 90s, but I think that their fashion carried on into the aughts in a way that other people didn't necessarily. But I do think about like TLC and Destiny's Child as people who really defined the aughts later on, like as far as being referential or referencing back to those groups. But I kind of wish we had an expert, but I hope that this podcast starts like just every podcast talking about Spice Girls, so we can get so much analysis of this film and phenomena in a new way.
Since we're gonna have quite a few guests on this season, I feel like I should just ask everyone to start. So, what's your opinion on the Spice Girls?
Can that be the theme, please? Like, just open with, okay. So before we get started, I need to know what's your opinion on Spice Girls. But the problem is you ask that, and then someone's like, I fucking hate them, and you have to end the podcast, and then you've got to have something to fill the time. It gets really awkward.
Or just cut it. Just cut it out.
just have them say, well, and then cut to the intro.
Pretty much.
Perfect.
So as is tradition on this show, well, I should say tradition, but it's only when I remember to do it, so it's a half-assed tradition. Yeah.
Like every tradition.
Me and Nick started doing this thing that we call the Thrill House moment of a movie. It's goes back to a joke on The Simpsons where Milhouse just gets a new video game, and it's almost like that famous image of the guy sitting on the couch and his hair's being blown back. Yeah. He's sitting in front of us and speaking, and Milhouse just sitting there, his hair's blown back, and he's like, "All I've done is enter my name," and it just says Thrill House. So we have a segment where we talk about our Thrill House moment, the moment that just knocked your hair back, made you realize, I fucking like this movie. It could be anything that just solidified that this is my shit. Do you have a Thrill House moment on this movie? What was the moment that what was your lock-in, to use a screenwriting term?
What a terrifying question. I mean, it's easy to just say like the Elvis Costello cameo, but
you can.
No, I wanna call out Alan Cummings' work in this movie was just so good to me, and I think it's because by this point he was recognizable. He wasn't super famous, but when you see him in any other movie, he is playing the most out, and even shows. I'm thinking about his character in The L Word, the most out there. He's still being himself, but he's being a character. He's a great character actor. And even when he was on Broadway, doing cabaret, he is this amazing character actor. And I feel like this movie, he was playing, sort of the straight man. I use that term a lot. It just means someone who's,
not the comedian.
Yeah, the opposition to the comedian that makes it funny. But he, and they make a lot of jokes about him as a documentarian and like ordering around his tiny 2-man crew. But I just love that he was just like this dude in flannel, like running around trying to get this movie made. That's like so not an Alan Cumming character to me, and I loved seeing that range, as it were, from him. That was a moment where I was like, this movie, like they took Alan Cumming, one of the greatest like character actors in a while, and just like made him into like this flannel wearing, kind of diminished director. Fantastic.
Yeah. So I also have, I could easily just say this when Elton John popped up. Like, I easily could say that. He was easily my favorite part of the second Kingsman movie. But if I had to be honest, the one, it was the running joke of the film producer and the screenwriter pitching their ideas, because it had such an amazing payoff in the end, where the screenwriter's pitching the idea as it's actually happening.
Yeah.
And then, it's even better because when he's like, they're going to walk through that door right there, and then they don't. But then it also ties into Alan Cummings, his whole bit, and they miss the big epic intro. It's like just the way that joke culminated. Like I said, I was into those bits anyways, but that's like the moment where I realized this movie's fucking genius.
Your whole thing about it being intentional, so intentional. Like that is right. That's like a smoking gun moment. Like they don't walk down a hallway in the beginning, so that means they we got to bring it back in the. That was like a really lame smoking gun. Not too smoking gun, but whatever. I'm not in class. And I'm saying the Spice World hallway is a new smoking gun.
Yes. And then there's also just two moments that made me like legitimately just like, because you watch a comedy, sometimes you're not actually laughing. You're like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
There's two moments where like I was legitimately just cackling. One, it was Meatloaf's great, I won't do that line.
Yes.
Because like, it's just, it wasn't the line, it was how he said it. And then when they were, the final sequence of him pitching his idea, and they were like, talking about the bus jumping over the bridge, and George went and goes, it's like, sounds expensive. And then we see like a shitty little like toy. Mm-hmm. About to jump it, and he comes back to him and is like, not that expensive.
Hilarious. No, that I actually like. There's so many things happening in this movie, and I love it. But that was one of my favorite. The budget joke, and then like they committed so hard to like, okay, now we're going to do it with little models because we clearly lost the budget. And I've seen like other movies that do that. They're like, oh, we don't have the budget, so and then it's like a shitty kid's drawing or something. But that was like such a good usage.
That's the best budget joke we've had since Mel Brooks.
Yeah, I was thinking
Mel Brooks was always the king of those. Like my favorite of a budget or breaking the fourth wall joke actually came from Robin Hood, Robin Hood Men in Tights, which does not hold up as well as it did when I was a kid. There's some questionable jokes in that.
Okay,
movie.
well
But what works in that movie still fucking works. But the great scene in that movie where we first meet Maid Marian and the camera's pushing in, and then it when it cuts to her in the bathtub, the camera breaks through the window because it hadn't stopped.
Yes.
Like the bus being a toy is on level with that.
Totally. That scene too. I thought it was everything about that scene good. Robin Hood Men in Tights. Yeah. What a formative movie as well.
Yeah, that was like my most watched movie as a kid.
I mean, I like conflate it with some other movies because you watch movies as a kid like all together, and that Princess Bride, which is one of my favorite films of all time, and what is the movie with Monty Python, The Holy Grail?
So you liked it? At first, I thought the commonality was Carrie Ellis. No, it just turns out you like fantasy.
I really do. I was I'm really, really, really into fantasy. It's like a problem. I'm a huge dork. But I was like, somebody pointed out recently that the way that I approach narratives, like as far as like criticizing them and analyzing them, is based on like the fact that I read like a bunch of really long form fantasy, like adult fantasy novels as a kid. With that, someone was like, "No, I can tell that you read like Game of Thrones at like 11." I was like, "Oh, now I feel typecast." I feel really called out. Yeah, so speaking of like formative, inappropriate experiences.
Well, I feel really good about this. We got like an hour and 40 minutes on Spice World.
Oh yeah.
Which
Spice World
is
too.
great. Is there going to be a Spice World?
No, I'm just like our podcast is going to be. Just as action packed, just as many cameos.
In context, we just did Murder on the Orient Express, the one from the 70s,
movie, yeah.
And it was like we maybe got like 40 minutes out of it.
Really?
I did not like that movie at all.
I feel like you and I, when we get talking though, like
yeah,
we gotta watch. When are we gonna watch a movie that we both fucking hate? Because that'll be entertaining too. But we've only watched bangers, right?
We should figure that out. That could be something we could do.
Let's
on this
find
show.
a movie that we like know we're gonna hate. Because we can't have seen it, right? Or like one of us can't have seen it, so we got to figure out.
Yeah, something.
Well, okay, you know my taste, and you know that I fucking hate everything. Like, so let's just find the most like white male.
Yeah, but every time that then you surprise me. Then you surprise me. You'll love something that I'm like, really?
What have I
because
loved?
at times I'm too lenient. I just enjoy watching movies, so sometimes I'm just too lenient. Though when I hate something, I truly hate it.
You commit. Yeah, I like borderline hate a lot of stuff. Like I'll just be like, that was fucking dumb, but it's got merit. Let me think about it. There's got to be like just like this shit. Like I don't know. I'm trying to think about, and I haven't seen I haven't seen like Citizen Kane. You know what I mean? It's like I have a big chunk of classic type movies that I haven't seen. Damn it! Have I become too lenient in my old age?
Possibly.
Oh,
you're becoming more and more like me.
Oh no. Okay, let me think about it. We'll find a movie that we will both probably hate.
All right. Well, I'm gonna. The last thing I will say is on our way off this show, because I want people, if they ever fucking comment on this, I don't know. If you listen to this, I want to find out who everyone's favorite Spice Girl is. Who's yours?
Oh my god, I can't pick a favorite. I can't do it.
First one that comes to mind.
Scary.
Okay.
I love Mel B. I mean, like, it's not just because she's, like, the, spooky one. I like Mel B a lot.
My go-to is probably Mel C.
Melanie C is awesome. Mel C. They're all good. Okay, if I can just say, too, I do miss, like, in the 90s, how many references we put to science fiction and horror films. And there's a Spice Girls video where Baby Spice is the girl from Poltergeist.
I have not seen that.
Oh my god,
that sounds incredible.
Yeah, it might be like an alternate of a different video, Well,
there's also that whole Backstreet Boys music video that's like set in a haunted house.
I mean, like, you talk about like hip hop from the 90s, incredibly horror infused in a lot of cases, and
wasn't there also a Britney Spears music video where she's like on Mars or something?
Okay, that's the one I always think of. I think that was Baby One More Time or whatever. Oops, I Did It Again, something. Oops, I Did It Again was the school, right?
Yeah. Wasn't that Toxic?
No, Toxic, she's in a plane and she's like a spy.
Okay.
1 minute.
That's cool.
1 minute. That video, like, gay little Josephine was like, oh, there's a lot of tight latex in this on these women. That's interesting. That is Oops, I Did It Again.
Oh, shit, okay.
Yeah, she's in, like, this red, like, suit, and then this guy comes up. He's on Mars, and he's with NASA, and then he takes his helmet off because she tells him to. Like, another one, like, Britney Spears killing people, definitely a route for me, personally. Love it. Big fan.
All right. Well, anyone who's made it through this entire episode, I have a mandate
God
for
bless
you
you
that if you've not seen Spice World, try to track it down. It's not necessarily easy, but track it down. And, listen to a couple Spice Girls tracks, reevaluate them. That first Spice Girls album has a 4.5 stars on AllMusic.
Mm-hmm.
So the critics seem to like it, because it's great. But then, chase it, because we've talked about it a couple times, chase it with Josie and the Pussycats, and just have a good fucking night.
Love that. I love a double feature. As you know, from the random double features I send you.
Yeah. So, everyone, thanks for listening to us ramble about the Spice Girls, Spice World, the state of the 90s, CLEO from 5 to 7, yeah.
CLEO
from 5 to 7, and a little bit of everything. It's been great.
Yeah.
And let's thank our guest host for the night, Josephine, for joining me on this episode.
Thanks for having me on, as always.
The Shameless Picture Show is recorded in Milwaukee, Wisconsin and Easton, Maryland, and is hosted and produced by Nick Richards and Michael Viers. Today's episode was edited by Michael Viers. Our opening theme music was written especially for us by The Directionals, with narration by Zach McClain. The end credit music you're enjoying at the moment was generously provided by my friends in the band 10 Speed. The Shameless graphic design is masterfully done by Amanda Viers. An extra special thank you to all of our Patreon supporters and to our generous sponsors. We are on Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iTunes, Google Play, and Libsyn. You can find links for all these amazing people in the description below.